completely gazumped
Oh.
by councillors.
Thank you, councillors. Could we take our seats, please? Where is Wayne? Well, good evening, everyone. I welcome the gallery and the press to the council meeting and remind you that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed to council's Facebook and YouTube pages. I would ask for everyone to please turn off all mobile phones or put them in silent mode. Please be aware that a hearing loop is available in the council chamber. Staff members are able to assist you with this at any time during the meeting. Please remain quiet in the gallery so that everyone can hear the meeting. Anyone disrupting the meeting may be asked to leave, which, by the looks of things, I don't think that would be anybody. I would also like to remind members of the public watching the live stream that a copy of the agenda and information explaining council meetings can be found on the council website. Tonight you will see that we have 36 reports in open council and 0 in closed council, a transparency rate of 100%. Reading of the prayer. Please stand as I call upon Pastor Norma Kaiser of Turning Point Church, Cranbourne, to read the prayer.
Yes, I do. Okay. Gracious God, we ask you to give your blessing to this council, guiding them so that the decisions that they make might truly be for the well-being of the people of the city of Casey. Lord, we thank you for the year that they've had. Thank you for their hard work and sacrifice. Thank you for the input that they've given to make this a great council, a great area, the city of Casey. And we just pray that you'll refresh and energise them as now they have a break after this meeting, that you'll bring them back again, passionate, energised, with even fresh and new vision for the next year. Bless them tonight as they make decisions on behalf of the well-being of our community, we pray. In Jesus' mighty and powerful name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Norma. Could you please remain standing as I call upon Ms. Robin Zeddens from the Casey Multi-Faith Network to read the faith statement. Thank you, Robin.
The Casey Multi-Faith Network exists to promote peace, harmony and understanding, and to do so in partnership with Casey Council and the wider Casey community. We aim to spread knowledge and clarity about what different religions or worldviews believe, teach and practice. We believe that all members of religions and faiths have the right to peacefully practice and celebrate their own religion in a shared attitude of friendly coexistence and cooperation with all other people. And our members wish the councillors and all the officers a very, very happy Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zeddens, and a very Merry Christmas to you too, and the multi-faith. Please be seated. Sorry, you already are. The City of Casey acknowledges that we're on the traditional land of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people and pay respects to elders, past, present and future. I move to apologies. Could I have a mover and a seconder to accept the apologies from Councillor Ablett and Councillor Jackson? Moved by Councillor Flannery, seconded by Councillor Rowe. Is there any dissent? There being no dissent, that is carried. Suspension of local law. Could I call on someone to move and second a suspension of the local law? So moved by Councillor Flannery, seconded by Councillor Cristani. Is there any dissent? There being no dissent, we are in a suspension of local law. And I would like to first call upon Councillor Cristani.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I rise tonight to acknowledge the fine work done by the Council with regards to the lighting of the Christmas tree and the acknowledgement and celebration of the nativity scene that we have placed out there in Bunjil Place in the plaza, and the Makers Market that also was also so popular. We have a video. I'd like to show the video before I just finish off after that. While we're waiting for that, oh, here we go. Thank you.
I'm thrilled to see so many people in the plaza today. It is a great pleasure to be here to welcome you to the second year of the lighting of the Bunjil Place Christmas tree. Merry Christmas!
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. That was just a small snippet of really what the day was like, and it was sensational. Thousands attended, and we didn't have to force people to come. This is one of the few events I've seen that have brought so many people together from the community and have really united us. It is my absolute honour to say that this council here, most of us here were when we adopted to actually display this, and it has turned into such a great event. I thank you, Madam Mayor. You really presented it well this year. To actually put the money into the Christmas tree and to the nativity scene was just a small price to pay for what we actually did achieve, and it has grown from there. I consider this a fixture on the calendar where we'll establish this as one of the events to attend, and what better way to celebrate the birth of Jesus and acknowledge what Christmas is really about and bring community together. I thank you very much. I look forward to seeing this, and I thank the staff for putting this together. You did a fabulous job, and I continue to acknowledge this and keep going with this. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Cristani, thank you, and I'd like to acknowledge that it was your notice of motion that prompted the whole thing. And I really do commend you for that. It's something super special, and I need to also acknowledge the council staff, particularly the events team. They thought to bring about a unique and really exciting market event at the same time, which brought a lot of people together for both events. So that just meant that it was so well attended and such an exciting event. But what I loved the most was the detonator. We had a detonator that we weren't going to blow up the tree, we were actually going to light it up, but it was reminiscent of the Roadrunner days. So I just thought, yeah, the Acme Dynamite Company. So it was a lot of fun, and we really did enjoy it. So thank you very much, Councillor Cristani, and thank you for sharing that with us at Council. Councillor Smith.
Madam Mayor, we, under Councillor Abbott's reign as Mayor, I think the very last thing he did was he allowed us to use his name to have a mayoral charity concert, and it was in relation to raising funds for the drought relief, and we chose, well, maybe we'll go backwards. When I promoted it, that we were going to have a concert for not only for local performers, to give them an opportunity to perform in Bunjil, because a lot of them hadn't performed at Bunjil, we decided we would, and the officer's suggestion initially was the drought relief. So we went with that, and I remember publicising it, and Michelle Halsell, who's in the audience tonight in the gallery, she actually contacted me and said, hey, there's a Gippsland Farmers Relief Organisation that she and her husband volunteer for, because for those that don't know, Michelle lived in Casey for a long, long time, but has in the last couple of years moved to over the dark side into Gippsland, but she's a very active volunteer down there, and that's one of the charities that she works for. She told us about it. I figured why not? The money, it's not going directly to council, to Casey, but the benefits to Casey are enormous because we rely on that, all the farmers down in Gippsland as part of our food chain. So the charity concert was held, and I'm very pleased to announce, Madam Mayor, if you hold up, the final was $5,532.45. So that was a pretty amazing effort. So I need to thank all the performers for a start who gave up their time. There was no cost at all for this concert. So council came to the party with the venue, and all the performers donated their time. And we had some professional performers in there that would normally charge a nice little amount to share their performances. And it was a great night. It was no trouble. I think I'd said previously we put out expressions of interest, and I think we had 70 performers offer to perform, and we could only use 20 in the end. So it was very hotly contested to get a spot. And on the night, not only did we make the money from the ticket sales, but I was driving to Bunjil. That was the first anniversary of Bunjil, so I was coming to Bunjil early, and I had this brainwave, and I don't know, it doesn't happen very often. And I thought, why don't we have some buckets in the foyer and try and collect some money as people came out? Well, it just went gung-ho. I think we made $700 just from the people. Councillor Rosario ran around harassing people. I had a friend, Sharon Harris, in a wheelchair. It's always good to have someone in a wheelchair because she got money out of people that I would never have thought would get money. So she had a ball doing that, and the audience were very generous. Not only had they paid for a ticket to get in, but they threw money in the bucket as well when they came out. So I invite Michelle. Michelle is going to receive the cheque on behalf of the organisation because they're in their Christmas recess at the moment. So, and fortunately, Michelle was in Casey tonight and was able to come and represent the group. So come up, Michelle. Yeah, can you do it? Yeah.
Come on, Michelle.
Come on,
While we're waiting, to do this, 1, 2, 3. Zoomed in. Zoom out. Oh, that's better. Yes. Cameras.
My name is Michelle Halsell and I'm a former resident of Casey. I moved with my husband to Morwell nearly 5 years ago. We've been delivering hampers for Gippsland Farmer Relief for 2 years now. We deliver to 3 farms. Next year we will have to do 2 runs to cover the need. Each time we go to a farm we hope for better news, but it hasn't happened yet. Each month we deliver, more cows have died because of the poor quality feed, or they are destocking because of the feed shortage. The low price being paid for milk doesn't cover their costs. Over winter this year, one of our farms stopped milking altogether and another cut their milking to once a day. The only income the farmer that had stopped milking altogether was selling cut wood on eBay. We find out how expensive a tractor tyre or other machinery parts are, and they just can't afford them. Centrelink only covers them short term. They can't sell their farms, no one wants them. Their mental health is a real worry, which is why we go to their farm so they have someone to talk to each month. Gippsland Farmer Relief was founded by Melissa Ferguson in her home 3 years ago.
to help farmers in need by providing food and grocery hampers from items donated by the community. 2 years ago, it moved to a donated single car sized storage shed with no heating, cooling or toilet. 1 year ago, St Vincent's de Paul paid the rent on a small warehouse and offices. We have already outgrown that and could easily move to bigger premises. There are currently 70 volunteers with more needed to deliver and pack hampers. Every cent that is donated to Gippsland Farmers Relief, like this cheque, goes to the farmers. Our running costs are funded by grants and fundraising barbecues. Farmers are given 2 big grocery hampers per month. We are not able to send out debit cards to help the families for Christmas, and petrol cards are also given to families in crisis. In August, Gippsland Farmer Relief was delivering to 68 families. Now we are delivering to 107 families, and it is growing rapidly. We have expanded from Central and West Gippsland to now include east of Sale to the border, and work 1 day a week in that region where the drought is at its worst in Gippsland. The rain that we have just had last week has not really touched Gippsland. Thank you so much for this cheque. It will help farming families with food and help to cover their children's school expenses next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you, first of all, for the referral, because we really wanted something tangible to assist. But thank you for coming in and receiving the cheque tonight, and we really appreciate having you back here in Casey and having your mum here as well.
Thank you very much. It'll go on display in their office, so thank you.
Councillors, I'm going to move along because I know the next person that I'm going to introduce has got to get home to his family, including his beloved mother-in-law who's on her way to join them for Christmas. And I'm referring to Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson, when I was last mayor, came to me and said, Amanda, do you realise there's only 2 locations on the tourist trail that are located in Casey, and that's got to change. And from that, the Casey Kidinia Tourism Advisory Committee was formed, and now we have a tourism board, and that's about to get a new name, a very appropriate name. Michael has not only that, had a childhood dream that he wanted to work with animals and much more than that actually. And he and his parents set about setting up the Moonlit Sanctuary. And this is an amazing place. If you haven't been, I know our CEO said he's going to go and visit there, but if you haven't been, it is so worth going to see, not just once, but going on a regular basis. It's absolutely fantastic. You can have events there. I think we've got some photos. I think we might have some photos here. Yep, thank you. One of them, we actually had our tourism board meeting last week, our end of year meeting, and I made a very quick exit because Michael came out with this wrapped around his neck, and snakes are not my thing. It was quite funny actually. I never jumped so high. But this is at the awards, at the RACV Tourism Awards about 5 weeks ago, and not only did Moonlit Sanctuary receive 1 award, they actually received 2. They're not actually strangers to receiving awards. I remember I think you won the Casey Kidinia Business Awards, and then you won or certainly you were nominated in the South East Business Awards. Michael, you can fill us in there later. But this is just at the RACV Tourism Awards just recently, where Moonlit Sanctuary won the Tourist Attraction Award and the Eco Tourism Award, and that was a very, very exciting night. And so that's why I've invited Michael to be here, so that we at the council can recognise just what a wonderful enterprise you have with the Moonlit Sanctuary, and to recognise the significant contribution that Michael is making to tourism and conservation in Casey and Victoria more broadly. And Michael, if I could ask if you might come up the front so I can present you with a certificate and perhaps getting a photo. And Michael's just going to say a few words. Thank you, Michael. And I'd like to hand over to Councillor Rosario because I think he too had a function at your premises just recently.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a very quick one, but 2 weeks ago, Conservation Advisory had their Christmas break-up at the Moonlight Sanctuary, and it was great because we did it at night time and we had the tour at night. The staff were amazing. It was so educational, and it was just it's a very wonderful place to be. Like, it was, the kangaroos came up and I had the snake around my neck. That was, I'm glad that photo didn't make it up on there because that was, the look on my face was priceless. But well done. That is a very impressive place, and I'm just amazed at how you run that and how you keep that going. So thank you very much.
Thank you again, Michael. I now move on to acknowledging another wonderful person who does so much for the Casey community. Not only does he sponsor nearly every sporting club in Cranbourne and wider areas, but he's also, his business is just second to none. Receiving awards is very frequent. He too was, Highview Accounting received the Casey Cardinia Business Award. I think, was that when I was Mayor, Silvio? Might have been the year before. Yes, but I know how proud I was, especially being your councillor. And it's just wonderful to have Silvio Marinelli here tonight representing Highview Accounting. We had a sponsors day where we were going to acknowledge a wonderful award that Silvio and Highview Accounting received, but unfortunately Silvio couldn't make it on that day, so we've invited him back to acknowledge him. And my sources reliably tell me that Highview have been doing some celebrating recently as well, and I know they had a lovely trivia night too. I would like to ask everyone for a round of applause to congratulate Silvio Marinelli, Highview Accounting, for the 2018 Workplace of the Year. I can only imagine how proud you are, Silvio. It's a fantastic achievement. And I also believe that you're the finalist in the category for Finance Business of the Year. Is that correct? On the same night. Oh, yes, fantastic. And that is wonderful news. So, Silvio, without further ado, I'd just like you to, if you could come forward. I've just got a couple of things to present to you that we would have given you on the day. And if we could have another round of applause for Silvio. And Silvio's going to say a few words. Just press it to green, Silvio. Yep.
In 1990, so we were a very small three-person practice just in Kerry Lovegrove's house in Devon Meadows. So we've had a few incarnations through there, through Cranbourne Place, and then Childers Street and Sladen Street, and our current location in Codrington Street. So now we've grown to a 4-office accounting firm that just received notification that we're the 70th biggest accounting firm in Australia. So that was a nice thing to be acknowledged for. And we've got about 60 staff, just over 60 staff. So it's come a long way. We don't have anything so exciting to have snakes around our necks, but we do our best, and we love to be involved in the community and give back to a community that's been so good to us. So I'm much better with numbers than talking, so I'll just leave it there. So thanks very much.
Certainly, Silvio, your actions speak louder than words anyway. So congratulations one and all. It's just wonderful to have you here at our council meeting. Thank you for taking the time to come out. I'm just going to finish by talking about an event that happened on the weekend, which was amazing. I'm just trying to get some more information up, but that was the Melbourne Stars Family Fun Day. And it actually started out, and I'm just going to put my little Melbourne Stars Christmas hat on. It actually started out on the Saturday where we had Sri Lanka playing India, and we had a wonderful time with the women's Big Bash. And I think we're going to get some photos here as well, which is fantastic. It's some absolutely incredible photos of the women's, the Melbourne Stars women's dance group, I think they call them. They're like cheerleaders, and they were pretty athletic, and they'll come up in just a moment. But we believe we had 8,000 people at this event, and despite the weather, which you will see photos of that shortly, of the looming clouds, very dark, threatening. It didn't rain until 3 o'clock, and the event was to finish at 4 o'clock anyway. But here we've got the men's team, but the women's team are further up, which you'll see a photo of them. There's the women's team there, and gee, they play fantastic cricket. So we had them all up on stage. They presented me with 2 cricket bats, which are here at the front here for everyone to look at. It's the Melbourne Stars women's team there. And there's the Casey South Melbourne Cricket Club, who we really need to recognise because they work so hard to accommodate everyone at the event. They punch way above their weight. They're absolutely fantastic. And the other group I think we need to acknowledge is council staff. The events team and other council officers were there and working tirelessly. And if I could pay special mention to Callum Paddy, Wright Patterson and Beck Whiting and Vicky Goodwin. Absolutely fantastic, these people. They really make our events something special indeed, and they make it look effortless, and it certainly wouldn't be, that's for sure. But can you see how dark those clouds are? We were all just waiting for it to happen. But it was, this was the Sri Lankan team here. They were fantastic, the women's group, and should have the dancers coming up shortly. That's a coin toss. And this was the coin they then gave me to do on national television, and I did the worst coin toss I've ever done in my life because it was entirely different to a normal coin, but apparently that's what they use overseas, are those types of coins. It's just with and you hear the dancers. I know we're meant to be talking cricket here, but these guys and girls were just amazing in themselves. Just coming up now. So just wanted to acknowledge that, see those women, there's 2 women in the air there, that it was a huge success. The community were treated to a huge range of interactive activities, including Spartan Inflatable and Nickelodeon, Melbourne Victory, Melbourne Football Club, Test Victoria, Melbourne Rebels, Bowls Victoria, Casey Demons Netball, and the local sporting clubs, including Carlisle Park Vikings Cricket Club, Casey South Melbourne Cricket Club, who were the hosts, Casey Netball Association, Casey Basketball Association, and Casey BMX. Families enjoyed the entertainment of the stage and were also greeted by both men and women's teams signing autographs, and that's what they did. So, as well as they play cricket, they were so engaging with all the fans that were there, and really went out of their way to make sure they signed gave their autograph, as well as meeting and greeting. It was a fantastic event, and it's one that I hope to see into the future. I know Mr. Fitchett is a great supporter of this particular event, and it's been running for, I think, 7 years now, and look forward to it running in the future, because it's a great thing for the sport of cricket, certainly, and it's a great thing for showcasing Casey, but most importantly, it is actually a great thing for our community, and they loved it. So that's it for our suspension of local law. I now determine that the local law be reapplied, I just wanted to check on, were there any further conflicts of interest? Yep. Yep, okay. Could we just go to Councillor Saray? You have a conflict of interest? Oh, I haven't done that yet, sorry. And so moving to the confirmation of minutes. Is there a mover and seconder to confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on Tuesday the 4th of December 2018? Moved by Councillor Saray, seconded by Councillor Rowe. Is there any dissent? There being no dissent, that is carried. I am moving on to declaration of conflict of interest, and I'll start with Councillor Saray.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a conflict of interest on 6.33 and I've notified the CEO of the nature of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Saray. Okay. I have a number of conflicts of interest, and they start with 6.2, 6.15, 6.16, 6.18 and 6.33. Are there any other further conflicts, councillors?
Madam Mayor, did you actually, the nature of the conflict, did you have to say it? Or?
The nature of my conflict is, well, it varies. But
You've notified the CEO,
didn't you?
yeah, I'll notify it. As I've notified the CEO previously, yes, of course. So moving on now to officers' report for initial consideration. So what I'd like to do, councillors, with your indulgence, is I'd like to bring forward those items that we have a conflict of interest in, so that we can move them in block with, and only have me remove myself from the chair once. So those items would be 6.2, 6.3, 6.15, 6.16, 6.18 and 6.33. And so I'm now going to... Yep, I'd like to ask for a mover for a nomination for the chair, Councillor Rowe. Thank you very much. That's moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Councillor Rosario. Is there any dissent? There being no dissent, I do need to ask for Councillor Saray just to declare her conflict, so we can step out of the room.
Sure. Yeah, so I've got a conflict in 6.33, so I'll wait for... Or we're moving them in block?
As per your notification to the CEO.
Yes, so but we're moving all of that in block?
Yes.
Yes, I have to move out. Yeah.
You may as well come out.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I would like to declare 6.2, 6.15, 6.16, 6.18 and 6.33. And I have an indirect financial on 6.15, 16, 18 and 33. And I also have an indirect... I'm just trying to think of what that was, association on 6.2 as notified to the CEO earlier today. And I'll vacate the chair and hand over to Deputy Mayor Councillor Cristani.
No, that's the CEO. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. The Mayor and Councillor Saray have now vacated. Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Madam Acting Chair. I'd like to move all those items, 6.2, 6.3, 6.15, 6.16, 6.18 and 6.3. Move that they be adopted.
6.33 was that?
Sorry?
That was 6.33.
And 6.33, yes.
Correct. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any dissent? But that's carried. Thank you. Can we recall the Mayor and Councillor Saray, please? Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Councillor Cristani. Could I now call on officers who wish to withdraw any other items in our agenda this evening? Councillor Smith.
You asked for officers to withdraw, sorry.
Sorry, councillors will do.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I've just added an extra one too. So it's 6.4, 6.5, 6.6 and 6.7. And they'll be very quick, so no one needs to stay. No, don't panic, anyone, except for Ms McMahon.
Any other reports, councillors? Councillor Rowe. Great. Any other reports? There being no further reports, could I please ask for a mover and seconded for the following reports to be moved in block? That would be item 6.3, 6.9. That's what I thought. Okay, so not 6.3? No, thank you. That's what I thought. Okay. 6.10, 6.11, 6.12, 6.13, 6.17, 6.8, I've called 6.9, yep. 6.19, 6.20, 6.21, 6.22, 6.23 and all the way down to 6.32. Now, Councillor Rowe, did you want to withdraw 6 point? No, that's done. That's right. And all the way down to 6.36. So if I could read that out again to be clear. The ones that we're moving in block are 6.2. Sorry, 6.1. Done 6.2. Yep. 6.8, 6.9, 6.10. 6.11, 6.12, 6.13, 6.17, 6.19, 6.20, 6.21, 6.22, and all the way from 6.23 right down to 6.36. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Gillich, seconded by Councillor Flannery. Is there any dissent? There being no dissent. Moving on to public question time. Each question will be read out and then an answer given. There is a limit of 2 questions per person. Members of the public are not permitted to comment. Members of the public can contact council staff during office hours to discuss any issues that they may have. Ms Frost, do we have any questions tonight?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we do. We've received 2 public questions from Mr Colin Byron. Is Mr Byron in the chamber? Mr Byron? No. Under our policy, you do need to be in the chamber for those questions to be read out. So as Mr Byron is not here, there are no questions for this section.
We'll now move on to officers' reports withdrawn for discussion, and I call upon Councillor Smith, item 6.4.
Madam Mayor, recommendation as put in the agenda. Is
So
what I'll
moved
be
by
moving.
Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Rosario.
Just a quick reminder about the process that we went through. Councils will remember that we had the opportunity to take the money that was to be allocated to the community as part of its agreement with the Lynbrook Hotel. Admittedly, at the time, the officers weren't in favour of it, but council ultimately decided to go ahead with it. And I think in the end, it was the right thing to do. Certainly the community in Lynbrook and beyond think it was the right thing to do, and the process I think that the officers came up with, as I'd said right from the beginning, we are good at distributing money by our contributions, and this was no different. So I thank the officers involved, and I thank the community members, panel members. It's great being on a community panel, as you know, Madam Mayor, because you do it more often than all of us, I think. That it's so good to be on a panel of residents making some very important decisions, and the discussion is always robust, and sometimes we don't always agree with the decisions. Councillor Rosario we were on that panel, and unfortunately Councillor Rosario couldn't make it, but I was there. I had no voting rights, but I was able to speak like everyone else, and the outcome was pretty good. We had $317,000 requested, but we only had 68,000 to distribute, and you can see up there the money did go not just to Lynbrook, but it went to other areas. One of the criteria was that it had to have some sort of benefit, if possible, to the residents of Lynbrook, Hampton Park and Lyndhurst. And you can see up there there's some pretty good worthy charities. So, councillors, I thank you for supporting getting that money, taking that money and distributing it, and the outcome was pretty impressive, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Is there any dissent? Councillor Crestani. If there's dissent, would the seconder like to speak or reserve his right?
I'll reserve.
Okay.
To hear what Rosie's dissent.
Oh, I thought you said no.
Councillor Crestani, would you like to speak to your dissent? You're just dissenting, yes? Yep. Fantastic. All right. We've got one objection to this and a dissent. I'll go back to. Is there any other questions or dissent? No, I'll go back to Councillor Rosario. Did you wish to speak to that? No. Would you like to speak to this?
Well, I don't know what the nature of the dissent is, but as Councillor Smith mentioned, there was a rigorous process that we went through in order to come up with the outcomes that we have up there. And the community made that decision, Madam Mayor, and that was the most important part, is these funds were to benefit the community, and those, the vetting of the applications and the merits of that were debated quite heavily by the community panel, and these are the outcomes. And Councillor Smith and I, as he's mentioned, we do accept what the community has done, because a lot of work went into and deliberation went into those decisions. So with that said, I call on the support of my fellow councillors, and let's make some good things happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rosario, and I agree. I think it's a wonderful outcome. The money had to go somewhere, so it may as well benefit the community. Councillor Smith, would you not sum up? Okay, therefore I'll put this to the vote. Those in favour of the recommendation before us? Those, it's be interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4. And those against? Yep. Okay, that is 8 for, 2 against. That is carried. Councillor Smith has called a division. I would like to ask those in favour of the recommendation to stand. Councillor Rowe, Councillor Flannery, Councillor Aziz, Councillor Smith, Councillor Rosario, Councillor Stapleton, Councillor Soray. Those who dissent, it was with Councillor Crestani and Councillor Gellich. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 6.5, Bunjil Place Precinct Advisory Committee. Councillor Smith.
Madam Mayor, I'll be moving a recommendation. I'll wait for Mr McMahon to get there, because probing questions are sure to follow.
Moved by Councillor Smith and seconded by myself.
Madam Mayor, this committee has been a while coming. We made a decision to have a precinct advisory committee, and we went through a process of working out who would be on it and who would be invited to be on it and who, etc. And I thank the officers and Ms McMahon Hoskinson obviously leading that process of choosing and selecting and inviting people to be on that committee. It has met once, and I had the honour of being there. Unfortunately, the Mayor wasn't able to make it, but it was an interesting group of people we've brought together, many of them professionals in the industry, some of them not even being in the industry but having experience in business, etc. And I pay special tribute to Clint Cooper, who's from the Melbourne Stars, who came on board and probably maybe thought, what's he going to be able to contribute? But on the day, he actually had a lot to contribute, bringing that outside perspective into the discussion. So it was very good. So, Madam Mayor, I commend the report to councils and have a read of it and see and read about who are the people on there. They are people, some of them from within the City of Casey. Sarah Bond, who's an independent visual arts curator, is an ex-student of mine. So that was a pleasure to see her. I had no idea until we were in the room, and it's great to see that she's gone on to a professional career in arts management. So that's fantastic. So, Madam Mayor, we look forward to over the next few years this committee offering good, sound advice, which they haven't had the opportunity yet. It was really getting to know you session, but I'm sure it will happen.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Is there any dissent? Any questions? That being the case, that is carried. We now move on to item 6.7, Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee. Councillor Smith.
Move the recommendation, Madam Mayor, as there.
Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Saray. Thank you, Councillor Saray.
A couple of things came out of the meeting. The busking festival was brought up, and there was lots of questions about that because the committee has had an interest for some time about council's busking permit process. And so there was some discussion. I think there's probably still some more to come back. But one of the things that the Busking Festival did do was it actually uncovered some performers from the City of Casey that we didn't know about, who we've since used. A young girl who sang at the Hampton Park Carols the other night. Well, we wouldn't have discovered her if we hadn't seen her at the busking. And the two young brothers, I can't think of their names, but just two teenage brothers who were just stunning performers, great guitarists and singers as well. So, that was a great event, and the committee were very keen to see that continuing. And there was one other thing. No. Oh, no, it was interesting that there was a question asked about advertising screens and etc. in Bunjil Place, and councils will know that this is a hot topic for me, and I still want to see some resolution. But I'm pleased. I think the officers are looking into solving that problem. And the problem is that if you walk into Bunjil Place and you look at the TV screens that are outside the theatre and the studio, it doesn't actually tell you what's on in the theatre and studio for that time that you are here. So, and interesting, at a recent performance, one of the producers I knew, I've known him for a long time, and we just happened to be chatting out in the foyer after the show, and I said to him, is it normal when you hire the theatre that you get your show is the feature on the screens in the foyer? And he said, absolutely. He just expects that that's the case, and he was shocked. And he's used Bunjil quite a few times. He was shocked to discover, simply by looking at the screens, that wasn't the case. He was hiring the venue, yet his production that people were coming in to see wasn't being featured on the screen. Although, I have to say, if he stood there for 15 minutes, he would have seen it flash up for a couple of minutes, but that was about it. So we've got to get on to that, and he was actually quite amazed that that's something that we hadn't thought about or done something about. So I know Ms McMahon's hot on the tails of that one, so we're hoping that we'll have some good news and resolution of that one. And the question I was going to ask Ms McMahon, I won't, because I'll let her off. Merry Christmas, Ms McMahon.
And you forgot to mention the selfie that we had at the meeting.
Oh yes, we did. And thank you for coming too. That was the committee were very pleased that you popped in for that.
They're a great group of people, that's for sure. Any questions or dissent? That being the case, that is carried. Moving on to item 6.7, Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee.
Again, Madam Mayor, I'm just moving the recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Cristani.
This is a committee I've only just joined in the last 12 months, and I'm really enjoying it. And I was particularly keen at the last meeting to see that we've really the representation, because we had a number of new members join the committee. If you look on the top of page 2, it talks about how we've really got a representative committee of lots of population groups in the City of Casey, including members who identify as being the LGBTI community, as well as culturally and linguistically diverse or cold community. So that was possibly something that was lacking in the previous committees. I don't know, as I wasn't around, but certainly the current committee has got that representation, which I'm very proud that, to say that we will have input from them.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Are there any questions? Is there any dissent? That being the case, that is carried. Moving on to item 6.14, Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move an alternate recommendation, so we delete the current recommendation and replace it with the report be noted.
So it's moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Councillor Flannery. Please introduce Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and it's a bit of a sad moment to get up and talk about Team 11. It's not just a bit of a sad moment, it's an extremely sad moment that so many people can put in so much work, get promised so much, and then get kicked right in the guts at the last minute, to pull it mildly. And in speaking to it, Madam Mayor, I'd also like to pay tribute to Casey's councillors, all of them, and also the senior officers and the staff that helped on this project, and the staff of Dandenong, and particularly Jim Mehmeti and Councillor Sam Aziz, who was mayor at the time that this project was launched, and it was through Councillor Aziz and Councillor Mehmeti of Dandenong Council that it got off the ground. But I don't think even those two gentlemen realised what a fantastic, mammoth result that they would achieve. And Madam Mayor, you and I have seen the enthusiasm of the soccer consultative committee that Council runs, how the community of Dandenong, Cardinia, Casey, all the soccer teams in Gippsland, our three municipalities, Dandenong, Springvale, you go down the peninsula going to Kingston, we were talking in excess of 40 or 50 community soccer teams of all levels getting behind Team 11. We had massive gatherings of young people from those teams coming and supporting the concept of Team 11 and what it could achieve if we had have been successful in getting an A-League licence. And we, Madam Mayor, were in the game until 5 p.m, between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. on the night of the announcement. We had been told that we were it, and there was some degree of, or a high degree of anticipation. No one wanted to talk about it because in case we jinxed ourselves, and thank God we didn't speak about it because we would have, the way it turned out. But one of the things it's proven is, again, Casey, Dandenong, Cardinia have proven that we can work together and do big things, really big things. And with the assistance of the CEO, with Glenn Patterson, I can envisage that these municipalities will work together for the benefit of our community. One of the disappointing parts of missing out on this is the loss of what it would have brought to our community. It would have brought sports participation. It would have got disparate groups of residents from different and differing ethnic backgrounds together to play and watch the highest level of participative sport in this country, and that's the National A-League. And it's really sad that I guess that this came along too at a time when the FFA was in disarray. They'd been in disarray forever, as we've seen, being my involvement in the administration of the sport. Yeah, I think it goes without saying, and everybody that knows about soccer would know about that. One of the good things to come out of it was that we have moved on and we've received a state government grant to build the soccer academy down at Casey Fields. And we actually marked out a soccer ground in the middle of an AFL ground, which I know is sacrilege, but we did it. And the FFA came down and saw it, and they actually got it, how serious Casey was. The other thing that became evident to people that were involved was how good and how positive the City of Casey is. All the officers, all the councillors, we will take a different path if it's going to produce a better outcome for our community. And that's what we did with this. We took a different path, we decided to back it, and we were going all the way. And in closing, Madam Mayor, I'd like to thank the officers from that worked on this full-time with the City of Dandenong. That's Paul Kearsley, Emma Mishi and Matt Winley. And Matt Winley's a really gun journalist, absolutely gun. He actually kicked this off on a whim when he was a sports journalist at the Herald Sun. And he left the Herald Sun to take the risk of backing Team 11. And he did a great job. Gadia Rizuki, who was the interim chairman of the Team 11 Incorporated, along with Jerry Ryan, another man known very much in this community and the surrounding communities as being very generous and very sports-minded. And in closing, Madam Mayor, Peter Fitchett and his team were absolutely outstanding, absolute. And Peter would back me up. I don't think he said afterwards at any time I shouldn't have said it, but he backed me up all the way and was very, as he always has been, open to talk about things, to talk about ideas, to expand ideas, to get them to what almost became one of the best results that we've ever seen in sport in this state. So thanks, Peter. Thanks for everything. Thanks for all of the staff, the ones that brought the soccer goals down to the AFL ground twice, put the markings on the ground and actually brought some soccer balls for the FFA to kick around and get to feel what it was like. And I think the Team 11 group is going to have a little get-together, a bit of a debrief, and the FFA hasn't seen the last of us. Thank you.
Love the spirit, Councillor Rowe, and I just wondered, with your indulgence, if we might add an additional dot point, and that we write to all those who were involved in this and thanking them, so the CEOs, the mayors and Team 11.
Absolutely. It was remiss of me not to do so. Excellent. Thank you.
You've had a lot on your mind of late, and we are sorry for the disappointment, but if I could just put, yes, that Council writes to all those involved. Councillor, it's all those involved in the development, thank you, and advocacy of the Team 11 bid. And we all know who they are, so thank you. Just so, could I ask for leave of council for that to be included? Leave of council, fantastic. If I could just ask, is there any dissent or questions on this particular item? If I could just, given that there is none, I'd just like to say thank you very much to Mr Fitchett and his team. Thank you very much to Councillor Rowe. You were so passionate and so committed to this. You really did do one amazing job. And in Councillor Abbott's absence, I'd like to acknowledge him, but also Councillor Aziz. I remember how passionate he was about this when it was first suggested. And to Mr Patterson, because we had a very exciting trip up to Canberra a couple of weeks ago, and our CEO, along with Cadinea's CEO, Carol Jeffs, and Dandenong CEO, John Benny, along with another, it would have been 4 other councils that form South East Melbourne, heavily advocated for Team 11 and facilities in our region to provide for soccer for our community. So I'd just like to acknowledge those people greatly, and I know I think you're right, Councillor Rowe. I think it's only the beginning, and we should be very proud of the work that we've done, and we're also very proud of our community, and we'll keep fighting for something as wonderful as this to happen again. And once again, Councillor Rowe, thank you very much for all your efforts. And I'm now going to put that, I've asked if there's no dissent. There being no dissent, that recommendation is carried. We're now going to move on to consideration of reports of committees. Is there a mover and seconder to receive and note the record of Assembly of Councillors as listed? Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Gillich. Is there any dissent? There being no dissent, that is carried. Petitions. Are there any petitions or joint letters that councillors wish to present? Councillor Cristani.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation in my name.
Moved by Councillor Cristani, seconded by Councillor Gillich.
Sorry, I am going to stand. I'm just trying to find the email that's come up quickly. So if you just give me 1 minute.
Of course.
So, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we received this petition through council, and I'll just try to get through it quickly rather. This was received by...
Councillor Cristani, do you know how many signatures?
I'm sorry, 46 signatures.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll read it briefly, as quickly as I can. We residents of Narrewarra North who currently, this is what the petition says, who currently have to use Drysdale Avenue would like to request that the City of Casey reconsiders its closure of Hillsley Avenue, which was joining or opened into Avonview Drive, Narrewarra North. When residents were buying their blocks of land on Avonview Drive, Marrowa Place, Bella Vista Circuit and surrounding streets, we were brought to the area via Hillsley Avenue, Vic Urban signs still standing there directing people through this way. And we're not informed that this would be closed off and that we would have to drive via Drysdale Avenue. We suggest that Drysdale Avenue be closed off where Avonview Drive starts and Hillsley Avenue be reopened onto Avonview Drive, which would also ensure that residents of Hillsley Avenue only face light traffic coming through and not heavy traffic from residents of Drysdale Avenue and surrounding streets. Currently, where Hillsley Avenue is closed off, there is a group that causes nuisance to the residents, making loud noises and leaving behind rubbish, including bottles and cans of alcohol, making residents feel unsafe, especially given the fact that it is right next to a park. The park and barbecues are seldom used by residents because of security fears caused by the above-mentioned groups of people, and because the barbecues are not clean and left in an unhygienic manner. Further to this, residents are suffering because of lack of access to public transport, shops, access to their houses for emergency services. One resident is unable to get their child's school bus onto Drysdale Avenue and so has to drive to the top of the street, walk through the park and drop their child off to the bus, which was at the bottom of Hillsley Avenue. We hope that you can act for residents of your council and reopen Hillsley Avenue to Avonview Drive. There's just another note on the bottom which I think is relevant. It's probably more important out of all of those items, probably just as important if not more. When there is heavy rain, if the lake gets flooded, there is no other way for us to get to the main road. And so this is a high safety issue. I'm sure the officers are going to take this on board. And if we could... okay, the report, yes, I'm just reviewing what has been written there. Thank you. So the report will come back, and I'll just read for the purposes of the live stream. The recommendation we've put up there is that the petition be received, that officers investigate the road connection request in the petition and a report be presented to Council by March 2019, that the head petitioner be advised of the outcomes. So thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present that to my fellow councillors if we could have their support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cristani. Are there any questions? Is there any dissent? There being no dissent, that is carried. We'll now move on to notices of motion, and we'll bypass that completely because there are none, which is terrific. And we'll go down to reports by council delegates. Now, Councillors Cristani, Rosario and Smith have a report to present to council on the Casey Cardinia Libraries Board. No? No, you don't have to. I've just got it written here. Okay.
Yeah,
so
no, look, I'll move it. Sorry, no, I am remiss. I was alerted that I should be speaking to that, but no. Sorry.
So moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Rosario. Is there any dissent? There being no dissent, that is carried. Items of urgent business. Councillors, are there any items of urgent business? There being no items, we'll move on to closing our meeting. Before we do, I'd like to wish all my fellow councillors, our CEO and officers, along with our wonderful people in the gallery and all the residents of Casey, a very Merry Christmas and all the best for 2019. Councillors, that closes our meeting for tonight, and we will see you in the new year. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. CEO.